Have you ever looked at the big problem in this world? And maybe you even got an idea how to fix it. In one day, you just think like, this is actually a very nice idea, and someone should definitely do something like this. I'm pretty sure that we all do this. We see in this unfair world, we see missed opportunities, and we think that solving major problems is always someone else's job. Someone who's smarter, someone who's richer, for someone who's for sure more important than us. So we grow up believing that world-changing ideas come from special people, like geniuses, billionaires, and people with a lot of connections. But what if I tell you that every breakthrough, every movement, and every invention just started with a person who asked, why not me? Why not now? Why shouldn't I try to do something? Why shouldn't I try to do and change the world? So let's talk about a few people who weren't supposed to make the history. Maria Curie-Skłodowska. During the time when women were not even allowed at the university, she wasn't supposed to win 2 Nobel Prizes, but she did. Then Katherine Johnson, a black woman in segregated 1960 America. She wasn't supposed to calculate trajectories for the Apollo mission, but she did it. And then Ada Lovelace, a woman in 19th century when modern computer weren't even existed. She wasn't supposed to imagine a machine that could do more than just calculation. But guess what? She did it. She created something that we are calling now a computer program, 100 years before modern computer even existed. So these people, they weren't wait for the permission. They didn't ask themselves, am I good enough? Am I qualified for this? They just start doing. So what stops us from asking why not me? Is it just a fear of failure? Or is it feeling of being unqualified? Or is it all about waiting for the right moment? And even if you dream about something big, like space, for example, those doubts are even louder, right? After all, it's rocket science. But the thing is, all we can see is just a tip of iceberg. All those shiny press conferences, those liftoffs, those spacewalks makes us think that space is just for rocket scientists and astronauts. But the truth is that behind every mission, there are 100,000 people whose name you will never hear. And those are people who build, people who analyze, who test, who calculate, and those people who dream. And they came from a different background. This may be a refugee who became a rocket scientist, a teacher who became an astronaut, a single mom coding a satellite software. And women, still underrepresented, but rising. In 2023, about 28% of all space workers were women. But this number is rising every day because more and more women ask themselves, why not me? So these people are very different. They are engineers, of course, but they also are lawyers, they are doctors, they are psychologists, they are teachers, and they are farmers. Yeah, even farmers, because, you know, one day someone have to figure out how to grow potatoes on Mars, right? So what was the moment that changed everything for me? It didn't happen at the classroom or at the lab. It happened at the supermarket, actually. It was a Friday night. There was a long people, full of tired people, and only one register opened. Classic, right? So I was just standing there, and I was thinking what we all think. Why didn't anyone ask them to open the second register? Come on. And then I realized that, okay, this is my moment to shine. I will be the one who'll do it. So I gathered all my courage, I stepped forward and politely asked them to maybe open second register. And you know what happened next? They told me to be patient and wait for my turn. Of course. Yeah, not very inspiring turning point everyone expected. Yeah? But here's what happened. People who were standing next to me, they started talking to me. One person said that she's very tired and she wants to go home because it is actually her cat's birthday. Other person said that it's actually her birthday and she's going to cook a pasta. And she even shared her special recipe with us. And the moment after this, we were all just standing there, like sharing our plans for a weekend, and we even forgot about that damn register. So that was the moment when I realized that you don't have to be always right, and you don't have to be brave all the time. You just have to do this first step, because you will never know when unexpected connections and surprising moments are waiting for you until you do that very first step. So that day, I came with my groceries to my dorm room. The first thing that I saw when I opened my door, it was those dying plants that I forgot on my windowsill for more than a month, I think. And I asked, how can you survive in space if you can barely survive me forgetting to water you? Because you remember, one day, someone have to figure out how to grow potatoes on Mars, right? Yeah, but how do you even start with something like this? You don't start with rockets. You don't start with fancy labs. You start with what you have. A plant, a laser, an idea. It sounds crazy, but why don't just try use laser to stimulate the growth? Because light is a key factor in photosynthesis. So why don't just try to experiment with this? So this was exactly what we tried. So with no high-tech equipment, just some lasers, plants, and a ton of curiosity. And at that moment, our little project started to grow. We reached to the people who know more than us. They were engineers, scientists, astronauts. And they didn't laugh at us. They said that this is actually a very interesting idea, and you should explore this. And that was the moment when it stopped being just a crazy idea. That was the moment when I realized that maybe I belong in this conversation. Like, maybe I don't need to have a PhD to make a contribution. And that was the moment when I realized that space is not just for rocket scientists and for astronauts. Space is for everyone who's willing to ask questions, for everyone who's willing to try something new. So this step, one step after another, led me to my first analog space mission. And this wasn't my dreams that I had in childhood. This wasn't something that I was meant to do. But there I was on the analog space mission, living in simulation, conducting real experiments and wearing a spacesuit. Because one day there was this crazy idea to point a laser on some plants. So after that, I realized that in this world, there are a lot of people who will support you. But you won't find them until you take that very first step. And you don't need to be special. And you don't need to be fearless. And you don't need to have all figured out. You just have a few seconds of courage to take that first step. So I will leave you with what's last thing. What is one thing that you keep hoping that someone else will fix? What is one idea in your head that can't let go? Now, stop asking who will do this. Start asking, why not me? And then just start.